If your ministry feels kind of like a NASCAR race right now, I can kind of relate. And it's exciting. It's just also a little bit dangerous. Hey, it's Gabe Kolstad, and I want to talk to you, ministry leaders, about the idea of pit stops. We're coming off a season of Easter, of momentum, of more people, of more meetings, of more needs and opportunities and conversations and counseling appointments and new ministry ideas and all of the things that happen when it seems like God is at work in a ministry. And if you're not careful, if I'm not careful, we don't take pit stops. And you know what happens when NASCAR drivers don't take pit stops. Bad things happen. People get flat tires, they have blowouts, they have crashes, and we don't want to see that. That's where momentum actually stalls because we've had an injury of some kind. And we, as leaders, I think we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our teams, we owe it to our churches, we owe it to our communities to build ministries that are sustainable and to live lives where there's constantly new life flowing in us and through us. And the only way to get that is to practice what Jesus teaches in Mark chapter 6. We're going to take a look at that. But listen, here's how you can tell if you need a pit stop. If you are irritable, if you have shrunk your prayer life, if you are reacting constantly and there is no reflection involved in your planning or in your day or in your week, if you're leading on fumes, you need a pit stop. And we're going to talk about how we do that. I want to show you what Jesus did in Mark chapter 6. Jesus is in the height of a busy season. In fact, he'd also just experienced loss. In Mark chapter 6, we see that Jesus had lost his dear friend John the Baptist. And right after that, he's got another pressure situation. The disciples are coming back from the ministry that he sent them out to, and they're coming back and they're reporting back, and experts say Jesus was an introvert, and I'm sure all of that activity brought him some fatigue. He actually calls this out in Mark chapter 6, verse 31. It says, "Then Jesus said, 'Let's go off by ourselves to a quiet place and rest a while.'" His impulse was to take a pit stop after all of this activity. And if you watch the life of Jesus, you see he was really regular about doing these things. Well, problem is they got interrupted by more ministry opportunities just in that moment when they were all about to take their pit stop. More ministry comes in. Now this may be a familiar feeling to you, and let's talk about how we handle it, because right at that point they left the boat for a quiet place where they could be alone, but many people recognized them and saw them leaving, and people from many towns ran ahead along the shore and got out ahead of them. And then all of a sudden he's feeding the 5,000, right? I mean, now they're like, oh my gosh, we were just about to have a day off, and here we are, we're now back in the thick of it. Right after all that activity, Jesus insisted his disciples get back into the boat and head across the lake to Bethsaida while he sent the people home. After telling everyone goodbye, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. Okay, he's doing everything he can to get alone with God, and he's insisting that the disciples do the same. And what we find here is that this is where he really meets them in a special way. I mean, this is where he is out there on the sea and they don't know it. And he says, "Take courage, I am here." I mean, he's using that time as a refilling time for the disciples. It's a pit stop. Pit stops aren't the same thing as taking a break between races. Right now, you're probably in a situation where you've got more to do. And if you haven't had more ministry dumped in your lap, you've probably got more strategy or more thinking, or you're trying to find new ways to create momentum. There's pressure. There's always pressure. And what I want to encourage you about is that the only way to get through that pressure in a healthy way is actually to take a pit stop. You might say, "I don't have time to stop." And here's the reality. You don't have time to crash. You don't have time to crash. I don't have time to crash. We don't have time for teams to crash. We can't afford somebody on our staff crashing. That's going to take the wind out of our sails. That's going to hurt the momentum of God's church. And so I want to encourage you to do a couple things. One, daily pit stop. Maybe 10 to 20 minutes. What do you do during the day to actually have a pit stop? I'm not just talking about your morning routine. I love morning routines. I have a great morning routine. It's definitely something that puts fuel in my tank for the day. But by, say, 11 a.m., sometimes I'm out of gas. And what we all need to do is find little islands of solitude or little islands of refueling. I remember 19 years ago, this week, I was in a situation where I was about to step in as a lead pastor of a church I'm at right now. 19 years ago, I was in a coaching network this week, And I was taught this phrase: find out what refuels you and schedule it often. Find out what refuels you and schedule it often. And so sometimes that means 2 to 3 times a day, I'm finding some way to refuel my tank. That might mean, for me, grabbing 15 minutes, backing into some dark corner and journaling what's going on in my brain. That might mean just stopping for an hour and going to a coffee shop and just slowing down and just looking over my plans. And maybe it's picking up the phone and texting my wife and just seeing how she's doing. Or maybe it is grabbing a book and just reading a chapter real quick, just to go like, I gotta stop for a second and chill my brain. But for you, what is it? What would refuel your tank? For me, I'm an introvert. It's going to be something about solitude. For you, you might be an extrovert. It's going to be something about people and getting around somebody that can, kind of fire you up again. Great. Figure it out. Schedule it often. Make sure you've got the impulse to go, ooh, I'm feeling irritable right now. Maybe I need a little pit stop. And because otherwise we're going to end up taking that out on our teams. We're going to end up taking that out on the people that we love. And that is not fair. And it could lead to a flat tire. Okay, weekly. So daily and then weekly pit stop. I mean, we're talking now, do you have a Sabbath? Do you have a rhythm? Do you have a day off? Do you have time? And on your day off, what do you do to refill your tank? I mean, what do you actually do that makes you ready for, I always think rest, ready, I always think recharge. I always think reconnect. Of course, they all start with R's. It's the only way I can remember stuff. But how do you get back to strong so that you can start your week again? And I think that weekly, I call it a Sabbath. I think it's a super important discipline. And there's no accident that God created the 6-in-1 rhythm of 6 days of work, 1 day off. And he's talking about a day off, a Sabbath, where you really, really get back to full. How are you doing that in your life? Third thing, seasonal pit stop. A seasonal pit stop could be really helpful because maybe this is after a long push. I'm in a big push right now, big push. It's been, and it's a big push. And I'm looking forward to a seasonal pit stop after this, which is going to be more than a couple hours, more than a day. I'm talking a few days of real pit stop time where I can, with my wife, just regroup, just go, okay, let's take a deep breath. Let's rest. Let's sleep in a little bit. Let's make sure that we feel our tanks are full. And then we're going to be ready, to go forward. And so what I want to remind you, if you don't build pit stops into your life, your team won't either. And eventually someone's going to blow a tire. So let's don't do that. Let's get those pit stops in order. I'd love to hear how you're handling it. What are some creative ideas you can share with us? Just put the comments in here and let's make each other sharper.